Hi everyone, I am Mindless Autumn and I am going to be talking about all the different types of notebooks that you could use for a bullet journal today. I'm going to go through some of mine just to give you an idea of what's out there so that hopefully it'll help you make up your own mind what you want to use. This is the one that I showed in the previous video, and the benefit to this is that it's super inexpensive and it's really easy to find. The downside is the pages are not numbered, so that may be something you have to do yourself if you like the idea of using an index in order to find things later on. Also, the paper quality is not the best because it's so inexpensive. So if you don't use any type of fancy pens or markers, then maybe that won't bother you and you can just get this, especially to start. I would never recommend that you go and spend a bunch of money on supplies for something that you're still learning how to do. So this is a good way to go just to get started and get some idea of how you're going to use it. This type of notebook, which is still lined paper, but the paper quality is a lot better. You could use fountain pens and markers and pretty much anything but a Sharpie in here, and it's not gonna bleed through or ghost to the back of the page. Besides the paper quality, the fact that it's lined is really nice for writing, like if you're writing a diary style or any kind of list. You can just use the lines as a list. The downside to using lines is sometimes the lines can be distracting. That is something to keep in mind if you are looking at lined notebooks. This is the dot grid. Hopefully that's showing up on the camera. You see the majority probably of people using bullet journals using this dot grid because in real life the dots are a little bit darker than what you can see on the camera, but it's still light enough that it's really obvious what part of the page you're looking at. It's really easy to see what it is you're trying to see instead of all the visual clutter. Besides the type of paper, there are also different sizes. So this is a B5, and if you compare it to the regular letter school size notebook, it's almost the same size. It's a little bit shorter and a little bit not as wide, but it's pretty darn close, just to give you an idea of how big that is. And then the next one down, which I think more people probably use because it's easier to carry around with you everywhere you go, is an A5. This is a true A5, and the one that I use by Dingbats, this one, is called an A5 Plus. So this is slightly bigger than a regular A5. You can see the yellow around the edges, just to give you an idea how much bigger it is. It's just barely bigger, but it's still small enough either way, the A5 or the A5 Plus. It's still small enough that I can fit it in my purse, carry it around without feeling like I'm lugging around textbooks with me everywhere I go. And to compare the A5 to the B5, pretty big difference as far as portability goes. So I'm much more likely to carry around one of these than one of these if I want to take it with me everywhere I go. Then there is also this little one, which is called a pocket notebook, and that is significantly smaller. To compare that, this is my cell phone. It's pretty dang close to the same size as my cell phone. So the name Pocket gives you an idea. It really does fit in your pocket. And of course that means it's a lot easier to carry around with you everywhere you go. This particular one is made by Leuchtturm, spelled like that, and it is also dot grid and has numbered pages. They do make these in different styles, like they have the lined paper as well, and I think they probably have blank paper. This one I like to use at work. I call it my cheat book. So if you don't feel like you need anything quite this big and you really do just want to carry it around with you everywhere you go and have access to it at all times, especially if you don't carry a bag, you could just keep this in your pocket all the time and then not worry about the bigger ones. The downside to that is obviously it's smaller, so you don't have as much space to draw a calendar. For instance, for 1 month, instead of having the days 1 through 31 listed down the side, you may have to do 1 through 15 and then 16 through 30 or something like that, because there just isn't enough space to do the entire thing on one side. Or you may have to draw the calendar boxes a lot smaller or something along those lines. So this works for a lot of people. And then the last style I want to go over is the discs, like the Happy Planner style, and then the paper that goes in and out, that you could adapt the bullet journal idea into that particular style of system and make it work both ways. So I also really like that idea. I personally started with the Artist Loft brand from Michaels, the dot grid notebook. At the time was $5. I think it's $7 now. And that was great because I felt like I spent enough money that I got a decent quality notebook that I was motivated and inspired to use. You can still see the ghosting on the back of the page, and you definitely couldn't use a lot of different types of pens or markers. So after using that one and doing some research and trial and error, I've been using the Dingbats brand because the paper quality is just so much better. This is my current monthly spread, and I use Tombow markers. That's what all the colors are, and you can't see any ghosting or bleeding or hardly even shadows at all. So to me personally, it's worth spending the money because I feel like I am able to do more with it. So just play around with it, get an idea of what size you need, what kind of paper quality, and whether you want lines or grid or dots. I will see you next week when we will talk about how to get past the fear of what do I put on the first page. I don't want to ruin this fancy book. See See you next time.